Hello everyone, I'm Noah Welberger and we're learning how to play Go. Today we're going to talk about cuts, ladders, and getas. These are important concepts in terms of keeping your groups connected and what happens when they are disconnected. So this issue of connecting, disconnecting groups, whether it's yours or your opponent's, is a very important one and directly influences the flow of the game. So we're going to look at some elementary sequences, and I'm going to do it in the context of some opening plays. So let's start out with black playing here, and suppose that white does a 3-3 invasion. And just for fun, let's suppose that black decides to not directly answer, but actually to answer, moves in some completely different place. This is not impossible, okay? And if this happens, then this situation is reverting to what would naturally happen if white started here at the 3-3 point and then black played afterwards. Okay, so this is impossible. Sometimes it's judicious to not play in a certain situation. It's called tenuki in Japanese, and to take some other point further on, and then the joseki will necessarily change. By the way, just a word about nomenclature. So the history of Go, we'll have to talk more about that. It originally is a Chinese game going back thousands of years probably, and ended up being spread to Japan and Korea and now Taiwan. And those are the powerhouse countries in terms of professional players and developing the theory of Go. In modern times, say in the last 50 years or so, the Western world has learned about Go, and primarily, I would suppose, through the Japanese story. So Go kind of spread to the West largely through Japanese players, but of course, also there's lots of Chinese and Korean players that are playing around the world. But a lot of modern Go terminology, which is used in English, is derived from the Japanese terminology, like the word joseki, which refers to an opening play, or this word that I've just used, tenuki. By the way, in terms of names, the name for Go in Chinese is Wei Qi, and the name for Go in Korean is Baduk. Okay, so it's white's turn. So let's suppose that white plays here and black plays here. So we've seen this before, and I've told you that standard move for white is now to play here, and then black can play here or come out in this direction. But suppose, for the sake of argument, that white plays more tightly like this. This is also a viable move. This is a strong shape for white. White is wrapping around the corner, so white is using the corner as a base and has potential to develop along both sides. This move also has the advantage that it limits the liberties. It reduces the liberties of this little black clique here by 1, which just makes it a little bit more, puts a little bit more pressure on these black stones than this does here. Now, a natural response to this is for black to play here to prevent white from going further out. And then white typically will push underneath, and black will push out here like this. Now, suppose that at this stage white says, aha, look, this black group here has a weakness because there's a cutting point here. So actually, in terms of cliques, remember I defined the notion of a clique. A clique is a group of stones or a set of stones on the board of a given color that are all connected via horizontal and vertical edges. Okay, so these two form a clique, but all 4 stones do not form a clique. There's actually 2 separate cliques there. That means that if white plays here, white has the potential for disconnecting these things. Okay, now, at least in theory, if black plays somewhere else, white can pull this stone out and then separately attack this group up here and this group to the left. Now, this is something that black wants to avoid, and in this case, there's an easy answer because this is a mistake. Okay, the easy answer is that black can just capture this cutting stone, and this move is called a geta stones. So, obviously if white comes out here, tries to escape, well, that's Atari, and there's nothing that black can do. So that's telling us that this is actually a wasted move. It actually allows black to capture it and make nice shapes. So white is definitely not going to do that. White is typically going to crawl out here, okay? But another thing that white can do is to recognize that, okay, this is a cutting point, but I can still threaten black. I can threaten to make that cut. So it turns out that this move here is a good shape move for white, because this is actually the critical point in this shape for black. Black and white both want to play here, because this does two things. It, first of all, threatens directly to cut. So if black wants to keep his stones connected, then black has to connect. Now black can connect like this, which is a very ugly sort of dumpling-like shape. Black is very reluctant to do that. Or black could play either here or here. So this also protects the cut. And however, this is still painful for black because, well, first of all, white has a forcing move here, okay? But also because this point here is a false eye, because this has two white things looking in on it. And that means that if eventually this black group is entirely surrounded by white, and let's say, black plays here and white plays here, and white plays here and black plays there. If white ends up surrounding this entirely and say black has one more eye here, this is not going to be an eye. Can you see that? So imagine if white has surrounded this entirely here, this little portion here. So this is a clique. But if white plays all around here, then this clique has one more liberty, and it can be removed. So this is a false eye, okay? So these are various reasons why this is a good move for white, and therefore it's also a good move for black, okay? So if, say white plays somewhere else, it's not unreasonable for black to play here, especially as a beginner, okay? This is a kind of move that makes a strong shape, and you're sort of safe, and you also have a lot of influence towards the center. So white cannot press on this group very effectively at this stage, okay? So this is the kind of move that you want to make. It's a move that prevents a cut. Let me go back a little bit further now, right to this situation here. So after black played here, I had white coming underneath and white extending. What would happen if white cut immediately? This is a very interesting situation and a very important situation. So white is cutting black into two pieces, and then white has the happy position of being able to attack these two groups separately. So the critical question is, can black capture this stone? Let's have a look, okay? So suppose black tries to capture this stone. That's an Atari, because now this stone only has one more liberty. Okay, so white's going to escape. So what's black going to do? If black plays here, then white extends out here, and then all of a sudden white has lots of liberty. He's basically home free, and then the black's position will collapse. However, if black plays on the other side here, then white has to play here in order to escape. And now you can see that the situation can potentially repeat, okay? Black can play now on this side, and now white has only one place to escape, okay? And this is called a ladder. Okay, and if we played it out, which typically does not happen in games, because unless you're a beginner, okay, if you're a beginner, sometimes this can happen. But you have to actually see this, at least once. So let me go through it. So these are all Ataris, okay? So this is now becoming critical. Obviously, if black captures this thing, the game is over. And if white escapes, then black has so many weaknesses here, all these double Ataris, and black's position is going to be not entirely ruined, but in a very sad situation. So what's going to happen here? Well, eventually, of course, we're going to either run into some other stones, or we're going to run into the edge of the board. And you might like to think for a minute and sort of figure out what's going to happen in this case. There is a stone here, okay? This stone, is this stone going to affect things? Let's see. We're just keeping on going. No, this stone, at least not now, okay. This stone is not directly helping. It's still just going right to the edge. Boom, okay. Oh, poor white. This is now Atari. And, well, that's not an escape move. Boom, all gone. Game over. All right, so that is a ladder played out to the gory end. And you have to see this at least once to get an appreciation for the situation. Now, suppose that for some crazy reason, white played here, okay, and maybe black answered here. Then, if we did this again, it might very well be that this white stone will save the black group, okay? So, let's see if that's the case. So how can I figure this out? I'm just going to sort of zigzag with the white players, because here's the zigzag pattern that white is going to form. Okay, so once we get down here, white will go here, and then black will play here, and then white will go here, and then black will play here, and then white will go here, and black will play there, and white will go there. In fact, then, well, okay, I'm going to actually do this. Okay, so sometimes it requires some thinking to see whether this ladder is going to be successful or not. This is actually an important skill, because these ladders do come up quite a lot, and you have to be able to figure out what's going on without doing what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going through it and showing you directly. But if you want to make progress and go, you've got to be able to figure this out yourself. Okay, so the question is, can black capture white here? Okay, so white goes out like this. Okay, black plays here, white plays here. Now it's a little bit different, okay? But it's actually not that different, because black can Atari here, and white goes here. And now it's another ladder. The ladder sort of was disrupted momentarily, but now it's another ladder. Of course, black can also do it here to be sort of consistent. In any case, once white runs out to the edge of the board, there's no more possibility, and boom, it's gone. Okay, so this is then an interesting question of, given a ladder or potential ladder, how do the other stones in the area affect things? Okay, if there are some stones down here, then both players have to figure out, to trace through in their minds and figure out whether the ladder is going to work or not. In other words, whether black is really going to be able to capture white or not. Okay, great. Now, suppose that let's play here, and suppose that white plays here and black answers, or maybe white has had this stone here. So now we can trace through this, pretty quickly, and we see that there's a white stone here. This ladder is not going to work. That means that black does not want to play here. Okay, this would then be a wrong move. Actually, let me illustrate that again. So if white plays here, suppose that we have black playing here, white playing here, black playing here, white playing here, black playing here. Okay, I think now the ladder is not going to work. Okay, so now black is not allowed or not able to capture this thing. It's going to be a ladder. So that, that will mean that black, let's have white play somewhere else. Okay, and now in this local situation here, black should play out here, okay? And this is not an easy position for black, and there's now a fight that's going to happen. So white wants to pull this stone out. So pulling it out, that's just the obvious way of doing that, okay? And that's a reasonable play. Another thing that white could do is play out here first, okay? And let's say black connects like this, then white can come out like this, okay? Now if black tries to says, aha, here's another ladder. Looks like a ladder again. Okay, but it's no longer a ladder because this move here, with the help of this stone, is Atari on this black stone. So black does not have time to play this encircling move. Black has to come out here, and then white can destroy black's upper side here like this. Okay, so we've introduced the idea of a ladder. Very important, and I might actually just go back a little bit and look at some other options here. So suppose that that instead of playing here, that white plays here. Okay, this is a slightly more positive way of proceeding. Instead of crawling one at a time, white is jumping. It's not as slow and steady as this move here. Okay, that's also slow, but this other move is this one here is faster, and it sort of urges black to respond. Now, one thing that black can do in this case is push through here, and here also there are now some cuts. Okay, there are some cuts, and well, the cuts are something that black could play. Okay, so but in this case, let's say black cuts here, then the proverb is to always capture the cutting stone. So then black has a sort of a free move on this side, okay, and white will capture there. Now this is not very good for black because black cannot come out here. If black comes here, then white will play on this side and be able to sort of escape below here and capture this thing on a big scale. So really the best thing that black can do in this case is this and and this, which is not horrible for black, but it's favorable to white because this is a big capture here and strong on the side, and black really still does need to make an extension. If white plays over here, then black is cramped and is perhaps liable to attack. By the way, if this happens, I just want to show you in this case here. This is a nice little move for black to play in this situation. So before black comes out, black is obliged to come out here or try to make a base. But before that, this move here almost forces, well, it does really force white pretty well to take this stone here. If white plays here, then this move here captures these 4 stones. These 3 black stones are surrounded, but these ones only have 2 liberties, while these ones have 4. So there's no way that white can capture those before black fills in this one and captures that. Okay, so that means that white has to respond this way, and that means that black gets this move here, which is Atari on these 4 white stones, so white will capture that. So that's a small compensation that black gets, that black has sort of moved into white's corner and forced white. Now, this is a relatively small group for white, but black really does still need to move out, either maybe through here or maybe this is painful and submissive, but it's possible. Or black could play here, or black could maybe even play here to move out into the center. Great. Okay, but I want to return to that situation here. So suppose that we were talking about pushing through and cutting. Suppose that black plays here and white plays somewhere else. Now this push through and cut has a lot more potential. And now the situation is that if black cuts here again, white will play here, black will play here, Atari, so white captures that stone. And now this is a position that we've actually seen before. So this is like a transposition of another Joseki that we've looked at. We've already seen that if white pulls out here, then black can play here and capture those 3 stones. Okay, so this is a decent result for both players. However, in this situation, black might play on this side. Now, if white wants to protect the cut over here, one way of doing it would be to play here, but then black will Atari first, okay, and then capture those two stones. Now there's a big difference between this one and the one I just showed you, because white has not captured a stone here. Instead of having an eye here, he has this rather bulky shape, which is a potential victim for attack. Okay, this is a target. Okay, so this is nowhere as good as the previous one. So that means that this is not a good play. Now, if white plays solidly, well, that's better. That's better. Black will still capture these stones here. But now this is still not as good as the former situation where white had captured a stone. White is really obliged to make an extension here so that this group here has some kind of base. So what's the moral of the story is that when black cuts on this side, white is going to take on this side. Okay, so there's a proverb that says always capture the cutting stone. So that means that black gets an Atari for free on this side and white has to capture. And now we're in an interesting situation. I hope you can see that there's a ladder here now. Now, this stone here puts this white thing in a ladder. Okay. Now, if white comes out here, and then we get this back and forth that we've seen, right? This zigzagging. Let's just quick go zigzagging. Well, we can sort of see there's a black stone there, right? So this is hopeless for white. If there was a white stone here, then that'd be all right. But there's no way white can pull this out. So maybe white, could play a move like this. It's just some kind of, play on this side of the board, and it does threaten to pull this thing out. Okay, in which case black can just take a move and capture that stone. It's now a very strong shape for black. White has a quarter. It's only 5 points. It's not that big, but black's thickness, got a point of territory of the prisoner, and also potential on the side is far superior. All right. But this is another situation where the idea of a cut comes in. So let's carry on here and play some other situations where cuts are involved. So here is a joseki that we've already seen before, where white has a 3-4 point. We have a high approach move, and now there's this cut here that black should connect with. Now, suppose that black, for some reason, says, "Oh, this is so big, I want to take this corner territory." Is that possible? Well, yes, it is possible. Then what will happen is that white will want to exploit the fact that black hasn't really finished the joseki. So there's a cutting point here now. Okay. Here's a cutting point, and this is the obvious move for white to do, is to take this cutting point. And now, say black rescues this stone. This is a little bit more important because at least now there's a potential for making some position on the side. Black, however, is giving up on this stone here. So this move here captures this stone. Black can maybe Atari like this, okay? And maybe make then an extension here. In this case, this would be a reasonable thing. But now white does have a very strong position on this side, and white might very well play something like this that limits black's territory and looks to making a big territory along the side here. So the issue of cuts, of having a cut and being aware of this cut and defending against it is really important, and it happens in games all the time. So in a game, both players are trying to find ways of cutting their opponent's groups in two, and then attacking the separated groups separately. And you as a beginner should be really conscious of trying to keep your groups connected. You want to be super conscious of the connectivity of your stones. Okay, so cutting points are really important. If you have a possible disconnection, go back and make sure that it's connected before you go on and see some big territorial move somewhere else. Okay, so we've seen some getas today. We've seen some talking about ladder, which is really important, and we've just talked about the general importance of being mindful about cuts.